Our gathering song for the month of June is number 1074, Turn the World Around. We're singing pages 1 and 5 if you're following along in the hymnal. Please rise in body or in spirit. We come from the fire, living in the fire. Go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water. Go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living on the mountain. Go back to the mountain, turn the world around. Water make this river, river wash the mountain, fire make the sunlight, turn the world around. Heart is of the river, body is the mountain, spirit is the sunlight, turn the world around. We are of the Spirit, truly of the Spirit, only can the Spirit turn the world around.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society. We are grateful to gather on this beautiful morning, both in person and online, for a time of inspiration, reflection, and connection. Whether you join us today with joy in your hearts, weighted with burdens, or searching for meaningful connections, we are glad that you are here. I'm Reverend Diana Smith. My pronouns are she and her. I'm wearing a suit with a blue blouse and a stole with many colorful hands, and I'm standing in UUS's pulpit in the front of our sanctuary. The room and the adjoining Religious Education Commons are filling with people of all ages. Through the window walls of our sanctuary, we connect with the natural world around us, where it is a lovely, semi-cool June morning. As we gather, we give thanks for this land and all who've cared for it over the centuries, particularly the Kickapoo, the Iowa, the Sauk, the Meskwaki, and the Oceti-Shakawan nations. As people of many ages, genders, races, sexual orientations, classes, abilities, and health statuses, we know how important it is to come together and work together to create a radically welcoming spiritual community. As Unitarian Universalists, our faith expresses our core value of love through how we agree to be together and to support each other. We're guided by the shared principles, sources, and values of our living religious tradition. And this morning, as we reflect on the importance of rest and creating a sustainable pace, we will celebrate and explore our values of transformation and interdependence. If doing something with your hands during worship services helps you, we invite you to visit the Soul Work table outside the sanctuary doors and pick up something to work with. If you're newer to our congregation, we invite you to learn more about us after the service. For those who are here in person, you can talk to a greeter in the atrium, and if you're online, there's a link to a visitor form in the YouTube show notes that will help us connect with you. And now our call to worship comes from Jean M. Olson, who writes, "In what form did the Spirit appear to you today? The blossom of a flower? The tug of a child's hand? The silent twinkling stars? An old woman smiling at the bus stop? A lover's gentle hug? A presence so close to your soul, you could almost touch it. Words of truth formed, unhidden in your mind. The holy, disguised in so many ways. May your senses open wide in recognition."
Our opening hymn for this morning is number 94, What is This Life? Please rise in body or in spirit. to stand beneath the boughs and stare as long as sheep or cows. No time to see when woods we pass, where squirrels hide their nuts in grass. No time to see in broad daylight streams full of stars like stars at night. No time to turn at beauty's glance and watch her feet, how they can dance. A poor life this, if full of care. We have no time to stand and stare.
Good morning. I'm Kara Beauchamp, a worship associate and a member of UUS. I'm a 60-year-old white woman with white hair, and my pronouns are she and her. As Unitarian Universalists, we light a flame within a chalice as a symbol of sanctuary and safety to unite us in our worship and to remind us of our ongoing search for the light of truth. Please join me in saying our chalice lighting words as Chrissy lights our chalice. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the wonder and mystery of this great gift. So let us now kindle the flame of our liberal religious heritage and renew our covenant of mutual love and care. Love is our doctrine, the quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to serve those in need. This we promise, this we covenant with life and one another.
Each week, we light a candle for justice and healing, to acknowledge our interdependence with the natural world and with all members of the global community, especially the most vulnerable. We light this candle so that we may not be numbed to injustice and trauma, but rather find strength, courage, and love as we work in solidarity with others for liberation, justice, and healing. Together, we create resilience and hope. Today, we're lighting this candle for all those working to resist, all those working to change the morally bankrupt, unjust, and inherently racist and oppressive bill known as the national budget. We're lighting this candle to strengthen our individual and collective resolves to change it and our national policies. Because this is a budget that, rather than casting a life-giving and love-spreading vision, casts a small, narrow, and pitiful vision of what America is and can be. A budget that takes us yet further away from our most basic callings to act justly, love mercy, and go humbly with our God. A budget where, because of the racism and oppression that has shaped this country from the beginning, our laws, our policies, our basic structures. A budget where more harmful impacts will fall more heavily on people who are Black, brown, Indigenous, who are at risk of deportation, who are poor, who are disabled, and who are trans. A budget that the Reverend Dr. William Barber has called a death-dealing, dignity-denying, greed-glorifying betrayal of the least of these. A budget that any of us would be ashamed to try to pass for our households, our businesses, and certainly our communities or our congregation, both because of its serious financial shortcomings and its grievous moral and ethical ones. We would be deeply ashamed to develop a budget that so clearly takes food away from the hungry, removes access to health care, hinders our access to clean air, water, and land, takes money from the poorest members of our family or community and gives it to those who are incredibly rich and weaves racism, transphobia, and ableism through it all. And as I have asked our elected representatives, I now ask you, given that we would be ashamed to do this in our homes and in our communities, why would we allow this as a country? It is our responsibility to give voice to these grievous moral and ethical errors, to the pain that the path this country is on is causing, to call our elected representatives back into a better, more life and love-giving path, and to call ourselves and our communities into covenant as people who will create something better. This is a journey that we, as Unitarian Universalists, have been on for decades, really for centuries. Our path has not been clear. It has been bumpy and circuitous. We've had to listen closely, really to learn new ways of listening, and to discern carefully. We have needed to widen the circle of concern to learn from people with marginalized identities what we need to do better and differently. And we have needed to follow the listening and learning with actions. We have needed to have deep and challenging conversations, to question and transform our budgets and policies to center our best values. We have needed to give up some of our individualism and lean further into anti-oppressive relationships. We have needed to take risks, both by having conversations, building relationships, and by taking actions with a liberatory lens. And in doing so, we have found gifts beyond measure. I'll speak more about all of this in a few weeks when I preach on the call of love on July 6th and 13th. But for now, this is our time to declare with our bodies and our voices that all of us need all of us to make it. It is reasonable to wonder, given our elected representatives' callous words and actions, whether they will listen to us. And yet, in a time of rising authoritarianism, we cannot let our voices be silenced. And so, as I light this candle for justice and healing, may each of us listen for what we are called to do in this time and make a commitment to do that, whether it is reaching out to our U.S. senators or something more.
Good morning. My name is Nick Kaplan. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a non-binary person in my mid-30s. I'm here today in some black jeans and a Henley t-shirt ready to go outside for RE. But first, is anyone really good at resting? Okay, a handful of people really good at resting. Anyone find it difficult to slow down and rest? That was a quick hand in the back. Anyone else find it difficult to rest? I'm gonna raise my hand as high as I can for that one. Yeah? We're gonna practice. We're going to practice 1 minute of quiet rest. You don't need to be concerned about how long a minute is. I'm gonna take care of that. I promise it will only be a minute, okay? I'm not going to rest right now, that's your job. If you're on a cushion, maybe resting for you looks like taking up a couple of cushions since you have space. Maybe it means closing your eyes, settling a little deeper into your seat. But we're not working. We are not worrying about our to-do list. We are not worrying about the time, okay? Our 1 minute will start now. That was 1 minute of rest. Some of you, I'm not going to say names, started getting a little fidgety around 40 seconds. I felt like I could see it being a little bit difficult. It was hard to take that time for some of us. Some of us are practiced at meditating and sitting silently. Our Buddhist Sangha group does that for 20 minutes every Monday together. The first time I attended that meeting, 20 minutes felt like a lifetime. It's not necessarily easy for us to rest. It's not necessarily easy to slow our bodies down when so many things around us are telling us to speed up. If 1 minute was hard, and I asked you, okay, now we're going to do it for 2, that could feel a little intense, having just taken a minute, right? Yeah, for some of us that might feel a little intense. For those of us who are practiced at doing that for 20 or 30 minutes, 2 minutes, that's nothing. It takes practice, though. Being able to slow down and rest takes practice. Some of us are more practiced than others. But is sitting silently with our eyes closed restful for everyone? No. I have a no back there. We might be a little focused on the time, on what comes next, on our to-do list, on what we'd rather be doing. So if sitting quietly is not restful for you, what is? What was that? Rocking? Walking. Thank you. So walking, just to be out in nature. Okay, so walking out in nature. Some people will do a walking meditation. Okay, what is restful for you, Judy? Fidgeting. So what's one way you like to fidget? Okay, a Pop-It or Play-Doh, something repetitive, something that's meeting our sensory needs. Yeah. What else can be restful for you? Planting flowers, getting our hands into the dirt, working with that lovely, I forget the name of the bacteria. Yeah, having our hands in the dirt. What else? I heard music at the end of it, didn't I? Yeah, can you say a little more? I couldn't hear the first part. Laying down and listening to relaxing music. Yes, so maybe silence wasn't helpful, but if we had some soft, relaxing for you music, is the music that's relaxing for one person necessarily restful for another? No, we might need different kinds of music, but maybe music helps bring that rest into us. Yeah. Ooh, concentrating on feeling your heartbeat, having something to focus on. Yeah. Watching the birds at the bird feeders. That's a big one for me. Yeah. Journaling. So something that somebody else might think of as stressful or work can be relaxing and restful. Yes. Ooh, floating in water. I heard lots of oohs. Who likes to float in water or being in water? Yeah, lots of you. When I take some time and carve out a piece of rest for me, I like math puzzles, number puzzles. Does anybody else like puzzles and that refills your tank? Yeah. Our rest may not all look the same, and I promise you the first time I sat down with a math puzzle in front of me, not restful. But then I got in a groove. I practiced it. I better understood what was going on in my brain. All of these things helped me find rest in that type of moment. Quiet, focusing on our bodies, our heartbeat, our breath, being out in nature, watching the birds, putting our hands in the dirt. All sorts of things can be restful. And we need to remember to take that time to rest. And we need to remember that things might not be restful the first time we try it, right? We have to train ourselves. We're not good at things the first time we try it. That 1 minute was difficult for some of us. Not for all of us, but for some of us. And so now, instead of necessarily sitting with your eyes closed, maybe for this 2 minutes of rest, you'll look out our lovely windows, or if you're home or somewhere else, the windows where you are, and maybe you'll focus on the way that the wind moves the grasses, maybe the way the birds fly in and out of the trees. Maybe you will sit quietly with your eyes closed and focus on your heartbeat, on your breath. Let us take some time to practice resting. I'll let you know when the time is up. That was 1 minute again. I hope that this week you carve out some time to practice resting, maybe training yourself in a new kind of rest, maybe just getting better at the kinds of rest you are already great at. We've reached the time in our service when our children, youth, and teachers take the flame of our chalice, light their lantern, and take it off to our religious education class as they learn more about our faith and more about themselves. Our summer RE program officially begins today. We will be going out the doors at the side of the RE Commons and spending time together outside. If you have a child who is joining us, please find them after service outside near the corner of the building. And now let us sing as Judy lights our lantern.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Andrea Smith. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm a worship associate here at the UUS. I'm a mid-height 28-year-old black person wearing brown metal flame round glasses, a royal blue beret that I crocheted, a royal blue collared shirt, and a light blue jeans with embroidered pinwheels on the hem. Our first reading comes from poet Judy Sorum Brown's book, The Sea Accepts All Rivers and Other Poems, and the poem is entitled Trough. There's a trough in waves, a low spot where horizons disappear and only sky and water are our company. And there we lose our way unless we rest, knowing the wave will bring us to its crescent again. There we may drown if we let fear hold us within its grip and shake us side to side and leave us flailing, torn, disoriented. But if we rest there, in the trough, are silent, being with the low part of the wave, keeping our energy and noticing the shape of things, the flow, then time alone will bring us to another place where we can see the horizon, see the land again, regain our sense of where we are and where we need to swim.
Nurturing gratitude and how we understand and express interdependence is part of how we live into our Unitarian Universalist faith. As we enter our time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer, we acknowledge the joys and sorrows of our congregation. We do this by dropping stones into a bowl of water, symbolically immersing our personal joys and sorrows into the flow of all life's joys and sorrows. The water surrounds and holds the stone, but just as we are surrounded and held by the love and support of this congregation. For those who would like to share their joys and sorrows in conversation in a smaller venue, the Pastoral Care Associates will be leading a Compassionate Connection Circle in the Walnut Room immediately after today's worship service. These circles, which happen on the second and fourth Sundays, are opportunities to share with and support each other in our lives' journeys. If you're participating in our service elsewhere, you may wish to meditatively hold a stone, wash your hands, or meditate on an object near you. And now, if you are in the sanctuary and you feel called to do so, please come forward, take a stone from the basket, and place your stone in the water as we sing together.
I return to myself, here where I belong. I am
I invite you into a time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. As Tricia Hersey says in the invocation she uses for collective nap experiences, the doors of the nap temple are open. Won't you come? This is an invitation for weary souls to rest. This is a resistance. This is a protest. This is a counter-narrative to the lie that we are not doing enough. We are enough. This is a counter-narrative to the lie that our worth is tied to the grind of capitalism and the lie of white supremacy. You are enough simply by being alive. Thank you for living. Thank you for resisting. Thank you for creating. Thank you for dreaming. Thank you for resting. We believe that our healing can visit us while we are napping, while we are resting, while we are sleeping, while we are slowing down. We believe that naps provide a dream and visioning space to invent, to create, to heal, to imagine. This is what resistance looks like. Won't you come? This is resistance. This is a protest. May we accept this invitation. May we rest well and help our communities rest well. So may it be. Amen. Blessed be.
Our second reading also comes from Tricia Hersey's book, Rest is Resistance. She is an activist, artist, and the founder and creator of the NAP Ministry. She writes, I am inspired by rest, daydreaming, and sleep. Our collective rest will not be easy. All of culture is collaborating for us not to rest. And I understand this deeply. We are sleep deprived because the system views us as machines. But bodies are not machines. Our bodies are site of liberation. We are divine, and our rest is divine. There is synergy, interconnectedness, and deep communal healing within our rest movement. I believe rest, sleep, naps, daydreaming, and slowing down can help us all wake up to see the truth of ourselves. Rest is a healing portal to our deepest selves. Rest is care. Rest is radical. We must stand and lay firm in the space of creating a life filled with rest and radical care, even amid oppression. Rest is resistance is our tagline and mantra, our call. Rest is a form of resistance because it disrupts and pushes back against capitalism and white supremacy. Both these toxic systems refuse to see the inherent dignity in human beings and have used bodies as tools for production, evil, and destruction for centuries. Grind culture has made us all human machines, willing and ready to donate our lives to a capitalist system that thrives by placing profits over people. The Rest is Resistance movement is a connection and a path back to our true nature. We are stripped down to who we really were before the terror of capitalism and white supremacy. We are enough. We are divine. If we are not resting, we will not make it, and I need us to make it. The legacy of exhaustion stops with me. I invite you into the portal that rest provides. Capitalism cannot have me. White supremacy cannot have me. Join me in reclaiming our dream space. The time to rest is now.
I got my first lesson in the importance of rest, really, 20 to 25 years ago. After I developed an autoimmune condition when I was 21, I found that to manage it, I had to learn a lot about rest and self-care. I learned to create boundaries and practices that would let me get 7 to 8 hours of solid sleep a night. I developed exercise practices, including a daily yoga practice that kept me moving in ways that work for my body. I learned how to eat and cook things that kept me healthy, and I learned techniques to manage stress and relax. I've needed to maintain those practices over the years and to continue to understand how to adapt them as I age. Turns out aging changes a lot of things. I keep learning more about that every year. Having to develop such strong practices at an early age and having a body that tells me pretty quickly when I'm not doing what it needs have been incredibly helpful, although, to be honest, sometimes difficult, in my previous career and now as a minister. It keeps me honest about what we oddly call our work-life balance and attunes me to the world in a different way. And yet, over time, even while I may be doing better at some forms of self-care, even though I've been more attuned to having a sustainable pace and protecting rest days than many in our American culture, I have gradually let go some of those good practices. By the time I began my sabbatical at the end of January, I was weary. I knew that regularly working 50 to 60-hour weeks, especially with the heavy emotional and mental work that I do, was not healthy. That the pace at which I was living life and working was neither healthy nor sustainable. And yet, I didn't really know how to change that, how to lean into something healthier. And I wasn't quite sure what it was that I needed. On my recent sabbatical, I learned more about the importance of rest, about falling in love with the world again, and about doing so many things I wouldn't have imagined I actually could do, and about how all of those feed my spirit, my body, my heart, my soul, my mind. I was called into changing some of my habits and patterns, even my ways of thinking. There's something about being in a different culture that can help us understand ourselves differently. For me, I was particularly helped along by people that I studied and lived with in Cusco, Peru. I was called out, or really called back in, to awareness of my habits and how deeply I've internalized the messages of and yielded to the habits of American capitalist grind culture. My lessons really started on my second day of Spanish class, when my teacher was trying to get me talking about my life, in part to understand my level of Spanish, and in part just to get me speaking. She asked about what kind of work I do, and I described what I do as a minister. But then came the really hard questions. How many hours a day do you work? 8 to 12? What? But then how many days a week do you work? Thinking I was saying things wrong, that I didn't quite have my numbers right, she asked, so how many hours is that in all? Well, but if you work that much, when do you take care of errands and housework and family and community? To which I had to shrug and just say, I fit it in, feeling more and more sheepish all the time because I knew my answers were not in line with my values. Okay, so when do you take your lunch break? How long is it? Now, by this time, I had figured out that it is a Peruvian cultural norm that you take breaks throughout the day, including a 1 hour or longer lunch break. And so, I shared that I take a half hour for lunch, but I didn't confess that during that half hour, I often end up in front of my computer trying to catch up on email. Sound familiar? And still, without leaving that part in, my teacher gasped, "That's not healthy." Remember, this is taking the half-hour lunch. "That's not healthy. The work you do is hard. You need to take time to refresh your mind and spirit during the day, and you need to be able to eat and to digest." And then, calling me in, You need to take better care of yourself. Yeah. How many times have I had that conversation with myself? How many times have you had it with yourself? Or have your loved ones had it with you? Given the laughter I heard out there, I'm guessing this is familiar. And yet, perhaps because I was on sabbatical, perhaps because of the magic of cross-cultural exchange, perhaps because I was living in a culture that so clearly prized a more balanced and sustainable way of life, I was able to hear the message and begin to internalize it in a new way. Because this conversation continued throughout the weeks, both verbally and through simply experiencing a different way of life, one where people undoubtedly work hard and where there is a lot of hardship, one where capitalism is certainly at play, but also one where most people experience and emphasize more balance, and where the work of living and being in community is seen as important work that we need to devote our time and attention to, not just fit it in where we can. It helped to discuss our experiences with my roommate, a woman from Rio with some of the same and some different autoimmune conditions as me, who was experiencing her own version of this intercultural and interpersonal learning. And that ongoing conversation and mutual support for deepening my understanding and practices continued to help as I left Cusco and traveled in the south, in the Amazon, in Trujillo in the north, and in a national park south of Lima, and experienced a different pace of life in other ways. I experienced going slower, not trying to fill every minute, enjoying the gaps in activities, and I experienced an important emphasis on moderating our relaxation, not forgoing our responsibilities to our families, our communities, or the sacred. And I did my homework, because the last assignment my Spanish teacher gave me, the one I was tasked to carry with me and to work on as I continued to engage in Spanish language immersion learning through travel, was to take a list of 50 ways to relax, Dan, if you can show that, and turn them all into the imperative verb. I was to create commands to relax, things like, Diana, go lie in a hammock. Diana, go fly a kite. Diana, go hug a tree. Did I say that my Spanish teacher got me? So I'm going to share these with you. And as I do, I invite you to jot down or draw a quick picture to remind you of the ones that seem particularly relaxing to you. You're creating your relaxation menu. So, go take a bath. Oh, if you would like some paper, you can just raise a hand and somebody will bring you some to help you create your little menu. Okay, so go take a bath. Light a candle. Learn something new. Listen to relaxation exercises. Read a book. Rest your legs up against a wall. Listen to music. Take a nap, perhaps in a hammock. Exhale a breath. Look at the ocean, or hear a lake or a river. Go fly a kite. Observe the stars. Observe the clouds. And as one of my nibblings reminds me, find animals and other shapes in them. Write a letter. Sit in nature. Move 2 times more slowly than normal. That's an interesting one. Call a friend. Walk around the city. Buy flowers. Or cut and arrange some wild ones. Smell something relaxing, like use aromatherapy. Appreciate art. Drink a relaxing beverage, like tea. Read or look at something funny. Forgive someone. Participate in good works or social service. Practice gratitude. Put on music and dance to it. Let go of something. Visit a farmer's market. Pet an animal. Read poetry. Ride a bike. Go for a run or a walk, depending on what your body likes. Visit a park. Climb, or in my case, hug a tree. Write a poem. Play music. Drive to a new place. Turn off all of your electronics. Stretch. Paint or draw with colors or crayons. Observe a common object with new eyes. My dog helps me do this a lot. Eat in silence with attention. Go for a hike. Write a diary or journal. Care for your body. Take deep breaths. Meditate. And here are a few of my own additions. Garden. Listen to nature, especially the birds. Play with a dog or a cat or another animal. Do progressive muscle relaxation exercises. Say nice things about yourself or give yourself instructions. Apparently, this also works for helping ourselves navigate stressful situations. Listen to the sea. Kayak. Do yoga. Get a massage. Cook something fun. Laugh. And, from our discussion earlier today, float. Float on water. Rock. Rock back and forth, like with your body. Do Sudoku, or another kind of a puzzle. I love doing Sudoku. It helps me fall asleep. I don't know how I missed that one, but thank you, Nick, and whoever else said puzzles. So hopefully you have a few more ideas about how to relax now than you did before. But of course, a vacation is a vacation, and however much we learn or thrive during it, a lot of the question is how it affects us when we return to our regular lives. Once I returned home, and before I returned to UUS, to this congregation, I was able to spend time on family and caregiving stuff, and house and garden stuff, and reading and art, and spiritual practice, and social, and justice stuff, just all at a slower pace. A pace that let me breathe more, sleep more, and continue to notice in an embodied way what a more sustainable pace looks like. Since I've returned to work, I've also been listening for that same thread, as well as experimenting with ways of keeping a 45-hour week and taking a true half-hour lunch break. And I've been feeling my own and others' exhaustion more deeply. This week, my spiritual director brought me a chart, that's the next slide, Dan, that helped me understand some pieces of this tiredness, that helped me discern a place to lean into, and that helped me with understanding another part of the importance of rest, a part that Tricia Hersey points to in those readings, but that I, once again, needed to be reminded of. This chart helps us notice how, when two of our emotions overlap, we sometimes find a third thing. So, if you look at the middle of the chart at the light green circles, right now, as I work with this congregation and our wider community on how to organize faith communities for change in multiple spheres, I'm feeling love for the people and loss for what could have been and what was and what is coming. And so grief is present. And working with grief takes a lot of energy. It's part of that exhaustion. Then, if you look at the right side of the orange circles, I'm also feeling hope and doubt, and that gives me determination. And if you look on the right side at the purple circles, yes, the right side, at the purple circles, I'm finding it true again, that when confidence and willingness to be vulnerable about our own stories and the love we have and what we're willing to risk combine, we find courage. And I find that encouraging. And then, at the bottom of the chart, in the teal circles, there is an intersection that is oh so important in these times, because we are living in so much uncertainty, and we need resilience so much. And so where are we finding peace? Because without peace, without rest and relaxation, the kinds of deep rest and grounded, unselfish relaxation that we've been talking about today, our resilience falters. And so, as our time together begins to come to an end, I ask you, how are you finding peace? What will you do to bring more of that into our own lives and the lives of our communities, including those of the most vulnerable? Will that require courage, determination, assertiveness, redemption? How will you nurture space for that? And what role does learning to rest as resistance play? What is your rest plan? May you create one that sustains you and helps nourish our community today and in the times that come. So may it be. Blessed be. Amen.
How we give, what we do with our lives, our time, and our resources is a reflection of our values. In response to the abundance we are blessed with, every week this congregation donates generously to organizations in the community whose work aligns with our values and principles. Our community partner agency this month is the Free Medical Clinic. It is a nonprofit organization providing access to affordable health care in Iowa City. The Free Medical Clinic believes that access to health care is a human right and strives to provide a wide range of services to those who would otherwise not be able to access health care. In the sanctuary, the ushers will collect the offering. All cash contributions go directly to our community partner agency and the Community Common Fund. You can follow the instructions on the screen to give online. If you are writing a check, please use the memo line to designate the purpose. In addition to assisting our community partner, you may contribute towards your pledge or make a gift to support our operating expenses. The offering is a sign of commitment to this free congregation, which is completely supported by the generosity of all who join us. As we give and receive the offering, may we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts. May what has been shared today help us more fully affirm our interconnection and live into love and justice. Immediately after the service, we gather in Fellowship Hall or outside for conversation and community. If you are a newcomer, we hope you'll grab a snack and then sit at any table so folks can join you for some conversation. For those who would like to share their joys and sorrows in conversation in a smaller venue, the Pastoral Care Associates will be leading a Compassionate Connection Circle in the Walnut Room immediately after today's worship service. At 11:30 this morning, Reverend Diana will be sharing a slideshow about her trip to Peru during her sabbatical. This will be back here in the sanctuary. During our fellowship time, you could take a moment to go to the Social and Environmental Justice table and write a postcard to Governor Reynolds, asking her to sign a bill that kills the CO2 pipeline, or to Senators Grassley or Ernst, asking them to restore funding for weather and climate science and to not cut SNAP, the food program. Finally, we hope that many of you will join us for our Pride Vesper service here at UUS on Wednesday at 7 p.m. It will be a shorter service of music and readings designed to help us come together to hold our LGBTQA plus community's losses and griefs. That's this Wednesday, June 11th at 7 p.m. We also hope you'll join us at North Liberty's Pride celebration, Let Love Fly, on June 14th, and Iowa City's Pride Parade and Festival on June 21st. We're looking for volunteers for both our booths for both Pride festivals, so please sign up using the links in the weekly email or talk to Kwanda Hood.
Our closing hymn for this morning is number 301, Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky. Please rise in body or in spirit. Touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on shores while spirits fly, over the ocean, over the land, our faith a quest to understand. Touch the earth, reach the sky, children ask the reasons why. In our lives the answers show, and by our love they learn and grow. Touch the earth, reach the sky, all are born and all shall die. Life's the time left in between, to follow a star, to build a dream. Touch the earth, reach the sky, hug the laughter, feel the cry. May we see where we can give, for this is what it means to live. Touch the earth, reach the sky, soar with courage ever high, spirits joining as we fly, to touch the earth, to reach the sky.
Please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
Dear ones, as you go out into the world this day and this week, may you go resisting rising authoritarianism, may you go resting, and may you go with peace, love, and justice, living love ever more fully and fiercely into this world. Amen. Blessed, blessed be.
Hey, how's it going?
Thank you for your music
Of course.
and for being you. Well, I did 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it went pretty well until the very end. I totally screwed up on the closing lyrics of
Okay, I'm on. All right, for those who are interested, I'm going to start my slideshow of Peru in just a couple minutes. Well, okay. Okay, I think you can hear me. Yeah, you can hear me. Yeah. So for those who are interested, I'm going to be starting my slideshow of Peru in just a couple minutes in the sanctuary. Okay, this is the 1 to 2 minute notification, 1 to 2 minute warning. There we go. I'm going to turn the mic back on. And so, this is pretty informal, right? So, y'all can ask me questions and stuff like that. This is going to be kind of a little bit of a chronological tour of my time in Peru. I left at the very beginning of February and came back in late March. I started out in Lima. This is the cliff wall in Lima. So I started in Lima, spent a few days there at the very beginning, and then spent a few days at the end. I will say at the beginning it was a little challenging because people ask what was my Spanish like when I arrived in Peru, and it's kind of, I wasn't somebody who was speaking a lot of Spanish, so I had studied Spanish and spoken it years ago, but that was in my late 20s, and so it had been 20 years. I hadn't really been using my Spanish, and so a lot of it had gone away, and but I decided I wanted to really improve it, and so I hadn't really been speaking Spanish, and then 2.5 years ago when I went on medical leave for long COVID, and I needed to do cognitive rehab, the people who were working with me on that advised that language learning is a really good way of helping your neurons re-knit themselves and rebuild themselves the way they need to. So I started doing Spanish with Duolingo. But one of the things with Duolingo is you don't really learn rules, you don't know why you're doing things, and you don't really speak. And so when I got to Lima, I was not very confident speaking at all, but just kind of throw yourself in there, and that's what I did. So I spent my first few days in Lima. This is the cliff wall in Miraflores, and it's a really beautiful place. Now we have no picture, but Dan, if you can move to the next one. One of the big things I did in Lima was I visited a lot of museums. So I went to Peru with kind of a vague general notion that there were a lot of advanced pre-Columbian cultures in Peru, but not with much of an idea of what that really meant. But from the very beginning, I decided to go and visit museums in Peru and found out, there really were a lot of very advanced pre-Columbian cultures. And I am sad that I can't right now remember which culture this is from, but this is kind of sculptural weaving tree of life piece that is about 2,500 years old, and which is just incredible, and it is so beautiful. This piece was about like that, yeah. I wish I could remember which culture it was from, but I didn't have a chance to look it up before. But so it's a tree of life. So this is a tree of life, and so the tree of life is a motif that shows up in a lot of different cultures. I personally love the tree of life, that symbol, and so I wanted to put this. I put this one in at the very beginning. But yeah, it's, and then Dan, if you can switch to the next one. These are little embroidered pieces from a funerary mantle that, I was trying to remember if this one was Nazca culture or Chonke culture, but in either case, it's about 2,000 years old. So this is, again, from another museum in Lima. I love weavings, and I was just astounded to find 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 even year-old weavings in some of the museums in Lima. And it's partly because it's a desert climate. In certain areas, it's a desert climate, and so there's stuff that's really well preserved. Can you go to the next one? So again, from the same museum, another fragment of funerary cloth. And the next one, you get to just see and then ceramics. I'm really a huge fan of both ceramics and of weaving. And I was just so astounded. This is actually a collection of ceramics from several different cultures, but I think later on we'll see some other ones that are kind of more specific to cultures when I was visiting different archaeological sites. But I loved the animal sculptures and how advanced, how just amazingly beautiful the sculptures were. And most of these are jugs, or they're different kinds of utilitarian vessels. So, you want to go to the next slide? This is a storage room at a museum in Lima, and I just couldn't help myself. I was just, astounded how many. These vessels are anywhere from 700 to 3,000 years old. And here we have the storage room that I just got to walk into. And how wonderful was that? And they were divided up by, vessels of humans doing different things and different kinds of animals and, just all these, hundreds and hundreds of vessels of each of these kinds. It was amazing. I know. Yeah. This is part of this museum. It's just open. The storage space is open, and you get to wander in there and just walk around. And this is after you've been wandering the museum for, a couple hours, just staring at things. And then you just walk in here and you're like, wow, okay. It's amazing, just amazing. Do you want to go to the next one? I think, okay. So that's rather grainy, but okay, this was in Lima. One of the things I loved was I visited this site called Huaca Pucllana, and if you go to the next one, I think there's a better picture. Okay, so Huaca Pucllana is an ancient, it's an ancient temple structure that is in Lima itself. It was constructed between about I believe the earliest date of the initial occupation was between 100 and 300 BCE, and then up through about 900, 1000 of the Common Era. And then it was not completely occupied by the Incas, so it doesn't fully have that Inca time period, but this temple was built over the series of about 1,000 years in what is now Lima. Eventually it got covered by sand. You can kind of see in the front of this, there's part of it that's still covered with sand. And in the 50s, when Lima started spreading out development, they found part of Huaca Pucllana by digging into it. And luckily, so some of the site did get destroyed, but luckily by the 1950s, people were paying attention to wanting to preserve sites like this. And so it's incredible. You can see so many eras of history in it. And if you go to the next slide, this is a recreation of a tomb in it. So they found this tomb intact, but the bodies, the mummies that would have been in those two kind of human-shaped things are now kept in special sites, and then this was kind of recreated. But basically this is an area where you can see the sea, you can see the ocean, and so there were a lot of different kinds of offerings and special burial sites here at Huaca Pucllana. If you want to go. There was also, this was the first time I met a Peruvian hairless dog. That is a Peruvian hairless dog. It really does not have hair. It has on its body, it has tiny little hairs like you might have on your arm. And the only place they have hair is on their head. That little mohawk is actually a thing. And that is that's a native dog species. It's amazing. And I met several of them in Peru. They were very cool. So yes, the Peruvian hairless dog, and then they had a garden. They set up gardens based on seeds that they had found in Huacapuquiana itself to kind of recreate what food systems would have been like. And so that's quinoa that I love eating. That's what it looks like when it's growing. There are also peppers and beans and potatoes, lots of potatoes. There are like 3,000 species of potatoes. I did not eat 3,000 species of potatoes, but I did eat a lot of potatoes in Peru. And I love potatoes, so that was good for me. Also, this was where I first saw guinea pigs being farmed, because guinea pigs are a natural, they're a good source of food, just kind of like keeping rabbits or chickens or something in your yard. People will keep guinea pigs and eat them. So there were, and also ducks and all sorts of things. Anyway, this was Huacapuquiana. If you want to go to the next one. Oh, this is the presidential palace in Lima. And the next one, I think we're going to, so this is actually from the very end of my trip, but I just decided to kind of put all of Lima together. This is another ancient site, Pachacamac, outside of, just south of Lima. It's, I'm not remembering right now completely, but I don't think it's quite as old as Huacapuquiana, but it was originally developed sometime around, I think sometime between 100 BCE and 300 AD, and then again was occupied by many different cultures over time. And I mean, so many of these are so fascinating because you just get to see, how hundreds of years of people lived in place, and it's just wonderful. And it was actually occupied at the time by the Incas, and at the time of the European conquest, the European invasion, as it's sometimes called in Peru. So, yeah, if you want to go to the next one, this is also part of Pachacamac. And then, these were some vessels from the museum at Pachacamac that were found inside of there, and these are different sea creatures. So, because Pachacamac is very close, even closer to the coast, and there's a lot of ceramics, a lot of weavings, a lot of different kinds of art forms in Peru. You see a lot of homage being paid to the ocean and to sea creatures, which again I just love. They're just so beautiful. Fascinating. Okay, so after Lima, I headed by bus to Cusco, and on the way, I stopped by Nazca. Nazca is the site of what's called the Líneas de Nazca, the Nazca lines, which are these figures that are carved in the desert, between, I believe, 200 BCE and 900 AD by the Nazca culture. People, and these figures are anywhere from 4 kilometers to 20 kilometers long, and these carvings have given rise to all sorts of theories about aliens and things like that if you look them up, because you can't really see them very well from ground level. In order to see them really well, you have to do an overflight. This is this is kind of like a thing on a wall showing a bunch of them. But if you go to the next slides, you'll see, okay, this is me doing an overflight in a tiny little airplane. This is the smallest airplane I've ever been in my life. And next one. So these are some of the Líneas de Nazca. And you can see kind of, there's a road that goes through the middle of them because it was started before people really understood what was there. And then it was already, the road was already there. They had already bisected the lines. But there's a tree of life and some kind of a little bird creature and like an iguana kind of a thing. And the next one, this is a little person. There's a little person there that some people call the astronaut or the alien or something like that. But you can kind of see you can see the mountains that they're carved on in there. And then the dog. That was one of my favorites. The dog. And I think the next one's, yes, the monkey. There's the monkey. I loved the Linnaeus de Nazca. It was amazing. Linnaeus. This hummingbird. And then some of them are just like rectangles, and it's absolutely fascinating. And they, So it's so the desert has different kinds of sedimentary layers, and there's like an upper layer that is kind of a grayish type rock, and then if you go down underneath that, I think you have to go about a foot from what I could tell when we were driving next to it. If you go down like about a foot, you get to this white layer. And if you, actually Dan, if you can go back a couple slides, maybe one more. Yeah, so you can see here, these are creeks, or like they're dry creeks. So you can see like the lines where dry creeks have actually cut through that upper layer of the desert, but then what the people did was they carved it themselves, right, down through the desert to get to that white layer. Yeah. Yes, they're basically like trenched. I mean, I was never right next to any of the actual lines that were dug, but when I was in the bus, I was looking at the kind of how the desert was stratified, because you can kind of see it, because sometimes the road was kind of like dug through some of the desert, and so you could kind of see how the desert was kind of created, and then they're like trenched down. I don't know how high up we were. I don't know. I was just focusing on not losing my breakfast. Because, I mean, this little plane, it's like it's going like this the whole time because they're trying to show everyone. And I have a really strong stomach. I do not get air sick or seasick or anything like that. But I will tell you, towards the end, I was like, look at the horizon. Diana, look at the horizon. You got it. You got it. That's it. So I don't know how high we were, but it was, yeah. Yeah. Yes, yeah, the chariots of the gods and this is one of these like evidence that like aliens were here back in 2,000 years ago. Who knows? Okay, so Dan, if you want to go forward again. And then this is actually a temple from the Nazca people, one of their temples. And then these are some Nazca funerary weavings that are just beautiful. And the Nazca people the culture thrived between about 200, 300 BC and about 700 to 900 AD. So I don't know dates of each of these. I mean, some things they have some better ideas of, but these are old. These are really old, and they're really beautiful. And there are a couple more. Dan, if you want to show those. They're just beautiful. Oh. Yeah. Just amazing. So then I went to Cusco. So I took the bus from Nazca through the Andes. It's 13 or 16 hours by bus. So anyway, it's an overnight bus ride. It was a very It was a comfortable bus, a very comfortable bus, but it was not a great ride because in the Andes you're kind of going like this the whole time, and so you're trying to sleep and you're in this like bus seat that lies all the way down, but you're just going like this the whole time and all night, and then yeah, yeah, no, not so much. And then I'm sleeping. It's dark. I can hear that it's raining, and I actually am not sure if it was better before the sun came up or after the sun came up, because once the sun came up, I could see the road that we were on, and I could see the rain, and I could see what the rain was doing to the road. And then maybe an hour after I woke up in the morning, we passed a bus that had been floated off the road in a flash flood and deposited right next to it. And of course, we just kept going, because what are you going to do? You're just going to keep going and hope it doesn't happen to you. And luckily, everybody was okay in that bus, but it's not exactly inspiring a lot of confidence. But we made it. We made it to Cusco. It was beautiful. The Andes are incredibly beautiful. And we got to Cusco. And if you go to the next slide, this is, so this is, I put this in, this is a painting of the Inca, I'll say cosmology, but so Cusco is right there at the middle. It's the white dot in the middle. And the idea of the Incas was that Peru, there were these lines of energy that radiate through Peru. And well, not just Peru, but through South America, and they come together in Cusco. Cusco is the center, and that's why it was the Incas' capital city. And then there are these 4 quadrants that make up the rest of Peru. So this is a modern painting that in one of the museums in Cusco that shows how the Incas thought of South America. And this is the Milky Way as seen by the Incas. And these are, you can kind of see animals in there. And so if you look at the Milky Way from there, you can kind of see this. And then of course it's, what our minds create of the different animals, the mama llama and the baby llama, and there's a monkey and there's a serpent. And anyway, it's beautiful. And I was very taken by their cosmology. It was amazing. If you want to go to the next slide. Okay. So this is some of Cusco. And you want to go to the next one. Some beautiful, again, some murals. I've got a few murals from Cusco that reflect Incan cosmology and pre-Incan cosmology. This is an artist's quarter in Cusco. If you want to go to the next one. Oh, this is my Spanish teacher. This is Patricia. And it's so funny because most of the time we were just sitting in a classroom, and I was very aware that she was smaller than me. But when I saw this picture, I was like, whoa. Okay. I'm a giant human, and she's a tiny human. There we are. But yeah. Yeah, she's a Peruvian with indigenous heritage. Yeah. Oh no, what's his name? This is one of our Inca rulers, one of the Incan rulers. And I can't remember his name. He's a really important one. Hence the, Yes. Yeah. But he was a really important one who helped kind of rebirth the Inca Empire. Okay. We can go to the next one. Okay. This is. Oh, okay. Yes, this is interesting. This is Coricancha. Coricancha. That's so. There's an Incan temple inside of. Like this is kind of a hybrid kind of building. It's Santa Dominica. Oh, sorry, hold on. I want to say this right. Santo Domingo, yeah, Santo Domingo. So Coricancha is an Incan, was an Incan temple that you can see parts of the original Incan building down below, and then inside you can still see some of it. But basically, a lot of the Incan stones were taken. They're beautiful stones, and they're taken to build all sorts of parts of Cusco as it currently is. And the double rainbow was pretty spectacular. So this is actually from Coricancha. And you can see some of the big Incan building stones there. And if you go to the next one, okay, so this is where you can see some of Coricancha, and the building techniques are just really outstanding. And one of the things I found fascinating is Peru has a lot of earthquakes, and the ways that the Incas built their buildings, they withstand earthquakes. They built them with like buffer spaces inside. And so, I mean, they were incredible engineers. Later on, you're going to see some aqueducts and things like that are still functioning. In Cusco, they say that it dries out really quickly after rains, and it does that because of the Incas' engineering that is still intact underneath the city. It's amazing. And the Incas, they were really, the empire came to an end in the 1470s. So a lot of the building is that you'll see is from like 1400 or the late 1300s to the mid 1400s. So this is more of Coricancha. They go a market in Cusco. I was absolutely fascinated by all the corn as well. Love the corn. This is Centro Cusco de Arte Nativo. Dances from different places in Peru. This is a black screen. Okay, if we go to, okay. Oh, this is, I was there for the Dia de los Comadres y Compadres, like godmothers and godfathers, or like so big festival inside of the market in Cusco was pretty hilarious, pretty wonderful. The white stuff is spray. Yes, thank you, shaving cream, spray shaving cream. Yeah, I was trying to stay away from getting shaving cream on me. And I actually was successful. Just before this, I had kind of like turned myself around like that. Yeah, a lot of hilarity. So, if you want to go to the next one. This was a demonstration of natural dyes. So, yeah. This is Sacsayhuaman, an Incan site right outside of Cusco, and it's thought that the jagged stones are references to lightning. This is the Andes outside of Cusco, going to visit some other Incan sites. It's just beautiful. I mean, just amazing. Ugh. Okay, we can go see some. Okay, this is this is an Incan site that was oh my gosh, which one is this? Sorry, I'm looking at my little notes here. Which one was this? Oh no, I'm sorry. Which one is this? Huh. Yeah, it's okay. It's yes. Yeah, just make something up. Okay. Well, I'm not going to make something up, but because Dan is recording this, and I don't want to make up names for places. That doesn't work. But and again, I can't remember the name, but I think one of the things in this picture that that I'll point out is the terracing system, which it's an incredible drainage system that again is still functioning 800 years later, and you can actually still grow crops on the terraces, and they work very, very well, and they're very productive. And this is how the Incas developed such a huge empire, because they were so good at this. And then in the upper levels, you get to houses and temples and that kind of thing. And also in Inca cities or towns like this, everything was kind of connected. It wasn't like you had a separate religious territory and like kind of a religious one and a home and where people live and military. It was kind of everything's kind of mixed together. But of course, you also did have like military outposts and things too. So yeah, more terraces, terracing an entire mountain. This is a site called Morai, where again a lot of terraces, and one of the things that's fascinating is they think this was a seed cultivation site. And so this is large enough, you can't really get a sense of the scale here, and maybe you can a tiny bit, but this is large enough that they developed different seeds for different altitudes and different moisture needs at different levels of that terracing system. And so this was a seed cultivation site, which is really cool. It's really cool. Yeah. They were geniuses, yes. This is Ollantaytambo, and another amazing site. This is actually, and this is also where the train leaves for Machu Picchu. And one of the things that I loved about this is I'm gonna get up, there's a God's face right here in the mountain. And I can't remember his name right now, but there he is, frozen in the mountain, watching out for folks. So this is Tipon, another archaeological site, but there are also aqueducts here that you're going to see some more pictures of soon that are still functioning. I can't remember where Tipon gives its water to. And then this is actually a different site, whose name I'm also not remembering. I have it all written down. But yeah. Oh, and then these are terraces in use. These are only being used for grazing, but sometimes you'll actually see them being farmed and things, with plants as well. And I just thought that was interesting. This is not Incan, this is Wari. The Wari people predated the Incas, and if I'm remembering my years correctly, they were active from 100 to 800 AD. But they had, this is in the Sacred Valley as well. Oh, I didn't say, these are all sites that are in the Sacred Valley. around Cusco, in the vicinity of Cusco. So these are places I visited while I was in Cusco, studying Spanish. Then I would go out and do tours and things too. And I decided that whenever I was doing tours, I was always doing Spanish language tours, which was also really good for my Spanish, partly because I was listening all the time, but I was also with Latinos from all over South America and Spain as well. And so I was listening to a lot of different accents. So it was, and a lot of it is just, because I mean, these sites take an hour, 2 hours to get out to. And so there's a lot of just listening to people talk about their kids or what they're doing next, or, so that was really good for me as well. But that's a Wari site, and then there's another photo. Oh, see, there's a photo over there. Oh, there's a photo over there of some of the walls at that Wari site. And then, so one of the treks I took, a day hike I took when I was in Cusco, was around a mountain called Asangate to visit 7 lagoons. And this is, you're going to see some photos of that little trek. It's a day hike, but this was, so Cusco is about it's a little over 3,300 meters in elevation, and this was the highest I actually hiked, which was, I got up to 4,760 meters, which is over 15,600 feet. So when I talk about I did some stuff that I never would have imagined I could do, I never thought, and especially a couple years ago when I was so sick with long COVID, and it's taken a few years for my lungs to get back to a place where I could potentially do this kind of thing, but it was amazing. So this is hiking up towards Asangate. These are alpacas on the way, and more alpacas with mountains. 4,756 meters. There I am. And there I am at about the same elevation, looking at the mountain that came out just as we got up there. It's a beautiful, just incredible. Yeah. Yeah, so this is one of the mountains that's over 6,000 meters high. Okay, more alpacas. There are more alpacas. Yeah. Yeah. I am a fan of the alpacas. I mean, look at them. How can you not be? Okay, and this is then going to Lake Titicaca. And these are people harvesting reeds to build floating islands out of. So when I visited Lake Titicaca, I got to visit the floating islands of Oros, which I think is the next slide. So this is the floating islands. These are traditional boats. The islands are made out of these reeds, kind of like stacked together. We took a little trip on this little boat, and then they had to load the dogs back up, which I just thought was cute. This is, there are a couple actual non-floating islands, mountain islands that are in Lake Titicaca. This is the island of Amantani, and there are 2 sacred mountains on Amantani, Pachamama and Pachatata, and I got to climb Pachatata, which is this one, and I think, this is a view down from it. Farming. This is a view from the top of Pachatata. So I think I meant to look this up before, but I think Pachatata was like 4,200 meters or something, which at that point I hadn't done the Asangate yet, and so that was the highest I had ever been. But I think the base elevation was like 3,800, so it was like 3,800 at the base, and then climbed to like 42 something. So like 500 meters, which is about 1,500 feet or something. It's a decent climb, especially when the air's that thin. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this was one of my first experience. Well, first getting to Cusco, I mean, oh my gosh, you get there and you're up at 3,300 meters. And I did take altitude pills. But yeah, I mean, just the walking, you're like, wow, okay, this is rough. I'm just walking around on level ground or walking around these little hills. But I was in Cusco I'd been in Cusco for 2 weeks before I went here. And then I might have been there for 1.5 by the time I went there to Amantani. And then I had been there for, I think, 2.5 weeks by the time I did Asangate. And then 3 weeks before I started my trek to Machu Picchu, which I think is next. It's not next. This is still on Amantani. This is our host mother that I stayed, because I stayed overnight on Amantani. Yeah. Oh, okay, yes, this is trekking to Machu Picchu. So when I left Cusco, I had decided I was going to take the Inca Trail to get to Machu Picchu. I actually was not able to take the Inca Trail because they closed it for longer in this past year because they had heavy rains in February, and so they needed to close the Inca Trail because of landslides and to do trail maintenance and everything. So at the last minute, after some scrambling around Cusco, I and a bunch of other people who were supposed to do the Inca Trail ended up doing what's called the Salcantay Trek, which is a longer, harder trail. You go to higher altitudes and then you drop down into the jungle. But why not? It was the way to hike to Machu Picchu, This is the way to do it. So this is me heading to Machu Picchu on the Salcantay Trek. This is a mountain lake, Lago Umantay. Yeah, this is Umantay. On the way up, so me at Umantay. I actually did that. Yes, so this was a 4-day trek. It's usually a 5-day, but they did a 4-day version for those of us who had, so you get timed tickets into Machu Picchu, and you have to book your ticket for Machu Picchu months in advance. And so for those of us who kind of got into a jam where we couldn't do the 4-day Inca Trail and we needed to do the Salcantay, we got to do the Salcantay in 4 days instead of 5. Yeah. Yeah, lots of hiking, lots. So yes, so the way the Salcantay worked is the big packs went on horses, and then I just carried a little day pack for myself. And then we would get to different places, and there were folks who cooked for us and everything. The food was really good. It was really good. I mean, they kept making special food for me. I have celiac disease. I think a lot of y'all know that. And they just kept making special food for me, and they were so careful. I didn't get sick at all. I was so grateful, because it would not have been good to get sick with celiac at that altitude. It would have been really dangerous for all of us. So they were super careful, and it was, really good quality food the whole time. So I don't know, so we're just hiking up. We're hiking up and hiking up, and we're still hiking up. And then eventually we got to the summit, which was at 4,630 meters for that one. This one was actually harder for me than the other one, I think because it was a multi-day hike and I wasn't as fresh. But yeah, I mean, this was where I had been hiking, I'd go 20 or 30 feet and then I would just stop and just breathe, just try to breathe, and then go a little bit further. But this is Sue, I see you, but this is right after I got to the top and somebody took a photo of me and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get you to take a picture later when I've gotten to breathe. But I actually like this photo the most because I'm just I can't believe I just did this. just did this. Sue. So we were hiking between 15 and 26 miles a day. And this was like the worst day because we had to hike up and then we had to ascend, it was almost 1,000 meters, and then we descended 2,000 meters in one day. And by the time we were done with that, like everybody's legs were just killing us. But I also felt really good about myself on this trek because I've been a hiker and a backpacker for a long time. And I have a lot of experience. And I was the third oldest person on our trip. So I was the third oldest. And one of our guides, though, the guide that was with my group, because there were these two groups that we would like come together to eat and everything. And, you know, it was actually late on our first day, we were talking about, you know, she's always like checking in with everybody. How are you doing? How's your breathing? You know, all of that. And she said, and I was like, I'm doing fine. And she said, I've been watching you. She said, you are in really good shape and you know what you're doing. She said, I've been watching you throughout the day, and these, like, most of the folks on the trip were like in their 20s, right? Like early 20s. And she's like, you know, the young ones, they start out going fast and you don't, but you know what you're doing. You know how to breathe, you know how to hike. And she's like, you're gonna be just fine. And I was like, yeah, I am. I've learned a thing or two. It's like, okay, I can feel good about myself. But yeah, so this is my group there at the summit. And then heading back down, as we headed off the summit, it started raining, which is important because you're in the mountains, and it just started raining, and it rained all day and all night as we headed down into the rainforest. And we started to see mudslides on the trail. And when we stopped overnight, the second night, the guide said, okay, for the day 3, we're all going to have to stay close together on the trail. And we may have to get a little creative. We're going to be talking to folks, the locals, to find out what happened to the trail. And then you're not going to see pictures of this because the third day on the trail that's some of the scariest hiking I've ever done, because we had to cross 5 fresh landslides, 5 fresh mudslides. So the ground's not stable, like they had just happened, and they're across the trail. But there's not really there's not really much of a choice. You're in the Andes, nobody's really going to come for you. And so, yeah, I do not recommend trekking across fresh mudslides, but we did it. We made it. It was a little wild because, you know, the guides were like, there were 2 of them, and the more experienced one, he would go across them first, like testing with his pole, and then the other guide would stay at the other end, and they would send us across, like with a couple meters, 2-3 meters between each of us, go slow, follow the exact route and everything, and you're going, and I'm going like, okay, and I understand that the reason we're spaced out is, one, for stability, but also, if you lose one of us, you're hopefully just going to lose one of us. Okay, all right, but we all made it, and then 5 days after we finished it, they closed the Salcantay track to people because it was just getting way too dangerous. But yeah, so we can see the rest of the Salcantay. This is hiking down through into the rainforest. So I hiked, so I did not hike back the same way, so we hiked down. And I will say one of the things about the Salcantay was, because then after a while we got to a place where some vans had to pick us up. But that was actually worse because then the vans are going across the fresh mudslides, which is even scarier than hiking across them. I'm grateful I got through it. But this is Machu Picchu. So I got to Machu Picchu. This in Machu Picchu really is amazing. So we can just look at some pictures of Machu Picchu. Dan, if you want to just kind of go, you can show people Machu Picchu, which you may have seen photos of before, but it is as amazing as people say. And I feel so lucky that I got to go and visit it and spend several hours there and hike there and hike down. So the trail goes into a town at the base of Machu Picchu, and then you can hike up to Machu Picchu. I actually did not hike up to Machu Picchu because I had like a 6 a.m. entry, and I would have had to hike up a trail in the dark to get there. So I took a bus up from the town to Machu Picchu. Then I spent like 4 hours hiking around Machu Picchu, and then I hiked the trail back down to the town. So you can actually hike up. It just depends on the time you have an entry. Sorry? Yes, you can take a bus or you can take a train to get to that town. Yeah, you do not have to hike the Inca Trail to get to Machu Picchu. Yeah, there are multiple ways to visit it. Yeah, but yeah, it's just amazing. I was there in March. Yeah. Yeah, and then I also feel really lucky because maybe a week after I left Machu Picchu, they closed the upper part of Machu Picchu again because they've been having such heavy rains and they needed to watch out for stability of the site and everything. So again, another place where I feel really, really fortunate that I got to have this experience. And then this is a sculpture in the town at the bottom of Machu Picchu of a god, whose name I also can't remember, but a god emerging from the mountains. Then, from Machu Picchu, I went to the southern Amazon, the southern part of the Amazon in Peru. This is the Madre de Dios River that is a tributary of the Amazon. And this is a place where the Madre de Dios and a stream meet, and you have the different colors of water coming together. I had a wonderful time in the Amazon. The way it works there is you usually go to a lodge that's back, outside of a city. You go to a lodge and you take little tours from that lodge. And so I got to do, different kinds of tours. You just kind of spend a lot of time sitting around, just with your feet up in a hammock, resting, relaxing. Spend a lot of time doing that. And then you go out and you get to see a bunch of birds or a termite mound. That's a termite mound, big old ant mound. Yeah, see lots of incredible birds. This is a cacao tree. That's where our chocolate comes from. And okay, this is so cool. You may not have noticed this, but the cacao pods they just grow off. They don't grow at the very end. They grow off of the branches. Look at that. It's a weird thing, but this is how cacao grows. It's chocolate. Oh, they harvest. They take the pod, and then there's like a fleshy part, and then there's like the actual like chocolate beans inside of there, and you have to like dry them out, and it's a whole, and they don't dry them, they ferment them. Yes, Andrea knows about, you're coaching me, thank you. But they ferment them, and it's pretty incredible, yeah. Macaws, they were incredible, they were flying right over us. Yeah. This little boat I took around, that we boated around in this little lake, and just before that you're going to see, actually right after this, you're going to see the monkeys. Some of the monkeys, I saw like 4 different species of monkeys. We were hanging out in that little boat eating some fruit at the edge, and we had seen these red howler monkeys like over there, and they just kind of kept coming, and they just kind of like hung out like right up above us while we're in our boat, and they're just hanging out, eating the leaves, luckily not trying to eat our fruit. We did toss some seeds into the water, and piranhas ate our seeds, which was pretty fun to watch. But yeah, those were I didn't get really good pictures of the other monkeys but yeah, those were right up above us. Of the other species, this is a suspension bridge. I was in what's called the Tambopata National Reserve. It's one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. And they have these suspension bridges these are in the canopy that you can cross. And so this is like, several hundred feet up in the air, but you get to see birds and everything from there. Okay. Oh, capybaras. I got to see capybaras. Those are babies. Those are little baby capybaras. I also got to see an adult capybara on the edge of the water, but I wasn't fast enough to take a photo. But they are so capybaras, for those who don't know, they are rodents. They're like guinea pigs, but they're like 60-pound guinea pigs. So those are babies, so they're only like 20 pounds. But they're really cute. Okay, and then I left the Amazon and I went to the north to a city called Trujillo, because I wanted to see a different part of Peru, kind of like modern culture in a different part of Peru, but I also wanted to see some sites up there from some cultures that were called Sipan and Sican and Machai. And so this is Huaca de la Luna, which is a Mochica site, I believe. I believe it's Mochica, and I believe it was occupied. It was, Huaca de la Luna so Huaca means like a sacred temple. And again, it's kind of like covered with the desert sands, but those holes are actually where tomb raiders have gone in. But if you go to the next slide, you can see part of things that were left. So this was developed in like 5 stages, and when there was some large disaster and they needed to do like a rededication, then a new layer of this Huaca was built. And so these are from the last era. But I think if the next slide is like a really beautiful frieze. And then the next one is, here you can see going back through several layers, like through at least 3 layers of different walls that are kind of built like, anywhere from 50 to 150 years apart, depending on when the temple needed to be renewed. And that is a god's face. I'm doing a really bad job of remembering the gods' names, but yeah. But yeah, so we can keep going. And this is Chan Chan, which is a site outside of Trujillo. It's a massive desert city. This is one temple complex that's part of a city that's spread over dozens of miles and was built, I believe, between 100 and 700 AD. I think it was occupied longer than that, because I think it ended when the Incas came and defeated these folks. And so things have been kind of worn away through the desert's winds over the years, but there are some really amazing friezes that are still intact with all these gorgeous animals. Squirrels. Those are squirrels. And these are some of the Mochica pottery that was found inside of Chan Chan. This is a different tomb. This is a recreation of what was found as they excavated through. This is the Lord of Sican, I'm pretty sure. It could be Sipan, but I think it's Sican. And anyway, this is really interesting. It's these this is a recreation, but basically the Lord was buried upside down in a fetal position, and then underneath him, these were two women who were sacrificed, who are in a position of giving birth, because this with the idea that if you're returning to be reborn, this cycle of life. And if you go to the next one, that's actually a drawing of what they found as they excavated down through. Just really fascinating to kind of think about how different people over time have conceptualized our lives and the cycle of life and death. Okay, so those, what you just saw briefly, are some of the actual artifacts that were found buried in that tomb. And they're going to come back. There we go. And a lot of this is solid gold, which is why it was looted. And so it's such a treasure when they find tombs that are intact. These are offerings, probably brought by various people from the entire area as offerings. This is another temple site whose name I'm not remembering, but it's around Trujillo. We can go, this one though, this one I wanted to mention specifically. So this is El Señor de Cacao, and the Dama de Cacao. This site is 2,000 to 3,000 years old, and in here, and actually I think if you go ahead, in here they found a woman shaman, and this is one of the earliest women rulers, leaders that they have found, and buried with, again, incredible wealth and riches. And it's a very important site, and it's one of the earliest women leaders, and it's kind of causing them to kind of rethink and try to understand how gender dynamics played out in rulers and leadership. And there are no real conclusions yet. It's kind of like the literature is all, we're trying to rethink like how this worked, given that she was clearly a very powerful leader. And then these are some murals in Trujillo that I was just really taken with. They're enormous. They're against the entire. Yeah, so they're mosaics. So these were made over the course of about 30 years by the students at the university in Trujillo under the supervision of an artist. And I mean, I walked both of them, and they're like half a mile each. They're each with tiny little mosaic tiles, but one of the walls shows like the human history of Peru, and the other one shows the natural history of Peru, and this is the natural history one, and the other two that you saw were some of the human history of Peru. So, revolution. Yeah. And then from Trujillo, I took a bus all the way back south through Lima, because I wanted to visit a site called the Paracas National Reserve and the Islas Ballestas, which is it's a beautiful national reserve that's like it's a desert right on a bay, but it's really close to where different kinds of waters come together, so it's very biodiverse. And so this is one view. This is a view of Paracas National Reserve from the water. This is heading out to the Islas Ballestas, where got to see a lot of different nesting birds, Humboldt penguins, which are very cute. Seal nesting. Oh, there are some Humboldt penguins. far away up on a little cliff. It's zoomed in. They're like that big. They're very cute. Nesting seals and pelicans, and this is visiting the Paracas National Park. I rented a little bicycle, a mountain bike in town, and biked around this national park. The winds were pretty intense sometimes on this little rented bike. I thought I was like going backwards, like pedaling as fast as I can into like 20-mile-an-hour winds that are whipping off of the ocean. But it was amazing. It was amazing. And so beautiful to be out there and seeing all that life. And okay, so yeah, this is more of Paracas. I went kayaking out there on the bay one morning, and there were bottlenose dolphins out there kayaking with us. You don't see any bottlenose dolphins. When the bottlenose dolphins were out there, I was just enjoying it. No photos. This is after they're gone. And then, this was very end. I went back to Lima. There's a big nighttime fountain and music show and light show, which is really cool. Kind of, again, this light show kind of on the fountains showing the history of Peru. And then the last thing, this is the second to last thing. I went and did a chocolate making workshop, which was really fun. That was cool, and I learned more about chocolate. And then before you go to the next slide, actually you can stop here. You can show that next one. That's okay. That's so before so my last story from Peru is when I was still in Cusco. Before I left, my roommate and I were kind of talking about what were we going to do after Cusco. She was staying for a couple weeks after I was, and she was going directly to Lima and then home to Rio. And she had these like bonus points through her work and things where she could sign up for tours in Lima. She could sign up for tours there. And she was like she was looking at these different tours and talking about them with me. And she says, okay, so there's this one where I can go swimming with sea lions. And I mean, one thing to know about my roommate, her name is Diana. She is very much a person, like she's very much a Rio person. She was like, I can't believe I'm not wearing makeup, all of this. And I'm like, wow, okay. I'm thinking, she's like, there's this swimming with sea lions thing. And I'm thinking, you are not going to ever find me swimming with sea lions. Like, swimming with a creature that's like 300, 500 pounds in its native element, this does not sound like a lot of fun to me. And I'm kind of going like, and she's much less adventurous than me. And I'm like, okay. I was like, if you want to go swim with sea lions, I think that's great. And I'm thinking like, yeah, right. This is not going to happen. But while I'm in Paracas, I get a text from Diana saying, I just went swimming with sea lions, and it was the most incredible experience. And she sends me these photos, and she's like, you have to do it. And I'm like, well, if she could do it, I can do it. So I'm going to go swim with some sea lions. So this was like the last thing I did in Lima. I went out on the way, pelicans, some more Humboldt penguins. You're going to see that next. Penguins! You're so cute. And sea lions. And then me with sea lions. So I will just say, I did not have as incredible experience as my roommate did. I ended up on a boat with a lot of young 20-year-olds who were very excited about what we were doing, and that meant they shrieked a lot. And it turns out that sea lions do not like shrieking people. So, the closest that the sea lions got to me, there were actually some that got closer than that. They maybe got about 8 feet away, but you know what? I'm actually okay with that. I don't know that I actually need sea lions to be closer than that. And it was an incredible experience, and I am so glad I did it. And I think that's the end. Is there anything else? That was the last slide. That's the end. That was my trip. Whew. Yeah, it was amazing. It was really amazing on so many levels. Thanks for listening.